Zulfikar. Zulfikar wasn't just a sword, it was a warning sign. Imagine standing on a battlefield and seeing your opponent holding a blade with a split tip, shaped like jaws ready to tear you apart. That's Zulfikar, a forked sword said to cut through armor and bone like they were paper. Its very shape told enemies, "You are not leaving this fight in one piece." It was given to Ali ibn Abi Talib during battle, and in his hands, it became more than a weapon. It was a symbol of divine justice. Stories say he could cleave helmets, shields, and even whole ranks of soldiers with it. Picture an army lining up against him, only to see that strange, double-edged sword gleaming back. Fear alone did half the work. The phrase tied to it became legendary. There is no sword but Zulfikar, and no warrior but Ali. For enemies, that wasn't just poetry. It was a death sentence. Zulfikar didn't need curses or magical tricks to be terrifying. Its design and its wielder were enough to make it one of the most feared blades in history. A weapon that didn't just kill, it scared you before it even struck. Gae Bolg. Irish myths didn't settle for normal weapons. Enter Gae Bolg, the spear of Cuchulainn. On the outside, it looked like a sharp stick. On the inside, pure nightmare fuel. Once it pierced a body, barbs inside it spread out like shrapnel, tearing through every organ at once. It didn't just wound you, it unpacked itself inside you like some gruesome IKEA kit. And because that wasn't wild enough, it couldn't be thrown by hand. Oh no, you had to kick it with your foot, like launching a spear-sized soccer ball of doom. Cuchulainn used it in the most dramatic moments, including his duel with his foster brother Ferdiad. One strike, game over. Gae Bolg was the definition of overkill. The ultimate, don't make me use this weapon. The tragedy was that whenever it appeared, it meant heartbreak was coming. A spear that never missed, but always cost something in return. The Lance of Longinus. The Lance of Longinus started out as just another Roman spear, until it got used in one of history's biggest moments, piercing the side of the Son of the Lord during the crucifixion. From then on, it stopped being a weapon and turned into legend. Supposedly, whoever owned it gained unstoppable power, until they lost it. Then, everything went downhill faster than a loose chariot. Medieval kings swore by it, claiming the lance brought them victory. Charlemagne supposedly never lost a battle while carrying it, but the day he dropped it, he died. Coincidence? Maybe. But people weren't taking chances. The lance became less about stabbing enemies and more about tempting rulers with the promise of control. The real curse wasn't the spear itself. It was how obsessed people became with it. Everyone wanted to be the one holding destiny in their hands, and the lance dangled that dream in front of them. Basically, the ultimate reminder that power is addictive and history doesn't give refunds. Spear of Destiny. The Spear of Destiny has enough stories around it to fill an entire series, and it overlaps with the Lance of Longinus, but also evolves in medieval myth. Unlike the simple spear that pierced origin, later legends treated it as the ultimate war trophy. Whoever had it won battles. Whoever lost it, well, say goodbye. Medieval knights believed it had mystical powers that connected them directly to God's will. Some claimed it could shine with holy light in battle, while others swore it would curse any unworthy hand that tried to wield it. Charlemagne, Frederick Barbarossa, even Napoleon, all were linked to stories about the spear. Its reputation was less about the weapon itself and more about how it made rulers obsessed. It became so legendary that even in modern times, stories popped up about powerful leaders chasing after it. Whether true or just myth layered on myth, the Spear of Destiny became less about stabbing and more about control. It symbolized humanity's endless obsession with power, and that's what made it forbidden. Everyone who held it thought they could bend fate, and fate always bent back. Crescent blade. In Chinese tradition, one of the most iconic weapons comes from the Romance of the Three Kingdoms epic, the Green Dragon Crescent Blade. Wielded by General Guan Yu, this massive polearm wasn't just sharp, it was basically a guillotine on a stick. The blade curved like a crescent moon, decorated with dragon motifs, and weighed so much it supposedly took superhuman strength to use. Guan Yu, however, handled it like it was a feather. With the blade, he became a symbol of loyalty, brotherhood, and martial skill. He wasn't just swinging a weapon, he was upholding ideals. Legends even said the blade could glow in battle, striking fear into enemies before it even touched them. If swords like Balmung or Zulfikar stood for divine right, the Green Dragon Crescent Blade stood for sheer presence. One man and one weapon holding entire armies at bay. Even today, Guan Yu is worshipped as a god of war and protection, and statues often show him holding this massive blade. It wasn't cursed, it wasn't tricky, it was just raw, unstoppable, and iconic. Sometimes a weapon becomes legendary not because of magic, but because of the legend of the person who carried it. Sudarshana Chakra. When it comes to Hindu mythology, one weapon stands out for sheer style points: the Sudarshana Chakra. Forget swords and spears. This was a divine spinning disc, sharp enough to slice through anything and fast enough to outrun thought. It belonged to Vishnu, the preserver god, and it wasn't just for show. With one flick of his hand, the chakra could zip through the air, lock onto its target, and return like the world's deadliest boomerang. Stories describe it cutting down demons, giants, and even entire armies in a single strike. It wasn't a weapon you parried or dodged. Once it was aimed at you, it was over. The disc symbolized divine order, spinning endlessly as a reminder that chaos would always be trimmed back by balance. And the best part? It was effortless. Vishnu didn't need to swing, stab, or even sweat. He just launched the chakra and let it do the dirty work. Compared to swords like Balmung or Zulfikar, the Sudarshana Chakra feels futuristic, like someone snuck a sci-fi drone into ancient India. But at its heart, it was a message. Divine justice is sharp, fast, and unstoppable. And if you were a demon in its path, let's just say, game over. Assegai of Shaka Zulu. For Africa, one of the most legendary weapons isn't wrapped in glowing magic, but in sheer innovation. The Assegai spear, perfected by Shaka Zulu. Before him, African warriors used long throwing spears. Effective, but not always decisive. Shaka reinvented the design, shortening the shaft and lengthening the blade so it was perfect for close combat. He turned it into the Ikalwa, named after the sucking sound it supposedly made when pulled from a body. Grim branding, but unforgettable. With this weapon, Shaka transformed warfare. His warriors carried large cowhide shields in one hand and the short-stabbing assegai in the other, forming a deadly combination. No fireballs, no curses, just pure tactical dominance. And yet, the assegai became legendary precisely because it was real. It reshaped history. Armies feared it, neighbors fell to it, and Shaka carved out one of the most feared empires in Africa with it. The assegai's legend lives on not because it was magical, but because it was effective. In mythology and history alike, sometimes the deadliest weapons aren't enchanted. They're simply designed too well to fail. That practicality is its own kind of myth. When your weapon rewrites the way battles are fought, you've entered legendary territory. Thunderbolt of Zeus. Before guns, bombs, or nukes, there was Zeus with his thunderbolt. Forged by the Cyclopes, this wasn't just lightning from the sky. It was divine wrath packaged as a weapon. One throw, and entire cities could be leveled. Trees, armies, fortresses, all gone in a blinding flash. For the Greeks, the thunderbolt wasn't metaphorical. They really believed the sky god was armed with the deadliest tool nature had to offer. The scariest part? You couldn't defend against it. You can block a sword, dodge an arrow, maybe survive a spear. But when a thunderbolt comes screaming down, there's nothing to do but accept crispy immortality. The weapon made Zeus unchallengeable, cementing his place as king of the gods. He didn't just win battles, he ended them before they started. The thunderbolt was more than destruction. It was control, fear, and proof that the universe had one boss. Every clap of thunder was a reminder that the gods could strike at any moment. Forget flaming swords or cursed spears. The thunderbolt was ancient history's version of pressing the red button. Fetters of Gleipnir. Not every weapon was designed to kill. Some were designed to contain. Gleipnir was the magical binding made to hold Fenrir, the monstrous wolf of Norse myth. At first glance, it looked harmless, like a silk ribbon. But don't be fooled. It was forged from 6 impossible things, like the roots of a mountain and the sound of a cat's footsteps. This wasn't rope. It was sorcery woven into physical form. When the gods finally tricked Fenrir into testing it, Gleipnir tightened with unbreakable force. No matter how the wolf thrashed, howled, or bit, he was trapped until Ragnarok. The terrifying part wasn't just that it held him, it was that everyone knew it wouldn't last forever. The gods had postponed their doom, not erased it. Gleipnir was less a weapon and more a ticking time bomb. It showed that even the mightiest monsters could be caged, but only temporarily. For the Norse, that was the real horror. Knowing the prison would eventually snap, and when it did, all hell would break loose. Arrow of Apollo. Greek mythology didn't hold back with Apollo's arrows. They weren't ordinary projectiles. They carried plague, death, and divine punishment. In Homer's Iliad, Apollo shoots arrows of pestilence into the Greek army, and soldiers start dropping like flies. No bleeding wounds, no heroic duels, just invisible sickness spreading from every strike. The fear wasn't just of being hit. The fear was of not even seeing the arrow until it was too late. One moment you're fighting, the next you're struck with disease you can't shake. These arrows didn't need close combat. They turned entire armies into coughing, dying wrecks from a distance. For the ancients, arrows already symbolized fate. You never saw them coming. Apollo's arrows doubled that terror. They weren't just weapons, they were inevitability. A reminder that sometimes the deadliest blows aren't the ones you see, but the ones that arrive silently, leaving nothing but panic behind. So there you have it. 15 new mythical weapons that could slice, smash, stab, or spin their way through history. Some were divine, some were cursed, and some just proved you don't mess with obsidian or creative blacksmiths. And if I messed up a name along the way, well, blame the ancient storytellers. They made these names tongue twisters on purpose. If you had fun, stick around for the next one. And hey, subscribing wouldn't hurt.